October 2025. The front lines of Ukraine. A Russian soldier makes a futile attempt to flee from a quadcopter drone. January 2020. Baghdad. The wreckage of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani's car burns after US President Donald Trump ordered his assassination by a Reaper drone. And October 2024. The Red Sea. The oil tanker Cordelia Moon is torn apart by a maritime drone launched by Yemen's Houthi rebels. You've probably seen images like these before. They show why drones have become icons of modern warfare. But, like the musket, the tank, and the U-boat, every revolutionary weapon eventually meets its counter. Now there is a new global arms race, not just for better drones, but also the systems designed to stop them. We're going to chart the rise of drones in war, examine the countermeasures eroding their dominance, and break down the worldwide struggle for technological supremacy in this episode of Photo Evidence. Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022 thrust modern drone warfare into the public consciousness. But we've been living in the drone age for much longer than most people think, and there are a few machines that heralded a new paradigm in military tech. This is a Ryan Model 147, also known as the Lightning Bug. Adapted from a target practice drone developed for the US Air Force, it took to the skies over Vietnam in the 1960s. Several variants were developed, but the core design was incredibly simple. Basically, a jet engine fitted with a pair of stubby wings. But it could cruise over enemy territory at 50,000 feet without risking the life of a pilot, and more importantly, for a fraction of the cost of a U-2 spy plane. Here you can see how the Ryan 147 was carried underneath the wing of its mothership, typically a DC-130. Once in position, the Ryan detached from its pylon and ignited its jet engine, launching almost like a missile. This nose cone and forward fuselage housed powerful cameras that could photograph North Vietnamese bases, supply lines, and ammo depots. It also provided intelligence on Soviet surface-to-air missile systems like this, the S-75 Dvina, which at the time proved very adept at shooting down American aircraft. After leaving enemy airspace, the Lightning Bug deployed a parachute so helicopters could snatch it from mid-air, as demonstrated in this composite image. Each recovery delivered thousands of high-resolution images. Some Lightning Bugs, like this one, pulled off dozens of surveillance missions before being shot down. This proved the concept of cheap, low-risk, unmanned reconnaissance at scale. When the Soviets learned the power of the Lightning Bug, the Tupolev Design Bureau developed these, the Tu-141 Strij and Tu-143 Reis. They had similar designs, a single jet engine, a streamlined fuselage, and stubby wings, albeit in a delta configuration. That should have marked the start of a new arms race between the two superpowers. But before long, both Moscow and Washington largely abandoned drones to focus on developing satellite technology. Instead, the next major development came from the Middle East. This is the Tehran Mastiff, and this is the IAI Scout. Unveiled in the 1970s by Israel's Air Force, these are considered to be the first iterations of a modern military surveillance drone. Now, at first, they look like a step back in design terms from the Ryan. These boxy fuselages, long straight wings, and this ungainly twin-boom tail design resemble a World War II-era P-38 Lightning. But they were much lighter than the Ryan and could perform a proper landing for rapid redeployment. Most importantly though, they carried stabilized cameras and basic infrared sensors that could stream live video to their operators and other aircraft. In the 1982 Lebanon War, these capabilities helped Israel to pull off one of the most successful military aviation campaigns in history, Operation Mole Cricket 19. At the time, Syria's armed forces had dispatched dozens of SAM systems along the ridges of the Bekaa Valley, here preventing the Israeli Air Force from supporting their troops in Lebanon. Instead of risking their fighter jets and pilots, the Israelis sent the radio-controlled Scout and Mastiff drones first to surveil the battlefield. Once the drones spotted the SAM sites, they acted as decoys, tricking the SAMs into using their radar to lock on and try to shoot them down. With the SAMs occupied by drones, Israel's fighter jets were free to sweep in and fire their anti-radiation missiles, which homed in on the SAMs' radar signatures. These images show an Israeli Air Force F-4 Phantom soaring over the wreckage of a SAM site after scoring direct hits. In the meantime, Scout and Mastiff drones were also flying over Syrian airfields, providing live targeting data while electronic warfare aircraft jammed the Syrian Air Force's communications. When Syria scrambled MiG-21 and 23 fighter jets to defend, Israeli pilots were already in the airspace, ready to shoot them down. This image was taken from the heads-up display of an Israeli jet. This target designation box shows a Syrian MiG-21 being locked at what looks like a distance of just 1 nautical mile. Seconds later, it's blown out of the sky. In a matter of hours, Israel destroyed more than 24 SAM sites and a major chunk of the Syrian Air Force, without losing a single jet. The vital role of the Scout and Mastiff drones in this success triggered a new wave of investment in drone innovation. This was the next leap forward, the General Atomics RQ-1 Predator. When this entered service in 1995, it was a state-of-the-art, medium-altitude and long-endurance reconnaissance drone. The wingspan of 14.8 meters increased its loitering time, and its turret here carried this, a multispectral targeting system. This world-class surveillance kit contained daytime and low-light TV cameras and an infrared sensor for thermal imaging in here. These sections incorporated rangefinders and laser designators to paint targets for airstrikes. Meanwhile, the enlarged nose cone concealed a synthetic aperture radar. This uses microwave pulses to generate high-resolution radar images of the ground below in all weather conditions, meaning it can see through clouds, smoke, and heavy rain. The RQ-1 first saw action over Europe, performing hundreds of flights over the former Yugoslavia. But at the turn of the millennium, the Predator received some huge upgrades. First, satellite data link meant that it could fly anywhere in the world, with its operators sitting comfortably back at base, stateside. This is a satellite image of CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia. It was taken the day after the 9/11 attacks. In this trailer here, on the edge of the CIA campus, a US Air Force team was piloting a Predator drone on a reconnaissance flight over Afghanistan, 6,800 miles away. Then, when the US invaded Afghanistan a month later, the Predator was equipped with these pylons to carry 2 AGM-114 Hellfire missiles. This upgraded version was known as the MQ-1 Predator, M standing for multi-role. With that, a new kind of drone was born, the Hunter-Killer. And it didn't take long for an updated version to materialize. This is an MQ-9 Reaper, which from 2007 became the US Air Force's premier Hunter-Killer unmanned aerial system, or UAS. The Reaper improved upon the Predator's design with an extended wingspan of 20.1 meters and this turboprop engine, putting out more than 8 times the power of its predecessor. These upgrades mean it can loiter for more than a day at 50,000 feet to find a target. Then, it can fire up to 8 Hellfire missiles, or drop precision-guided bombs to reduce that target to ashes. Together, the Reaper and the Predator carried out some of the most high-profile strikes in the US-led coalition's war on terror, racking up millions of hours of flight time. However, drone power was not destined to be the reserve of the state for very long. The late 2000s and early 2010s gave rise to a new kind of UAV, the consumer drone. This put unmanned aerial systems, or UAS, into the hands of anyone with a few $100s in their pocket. This is a DJI Phantom, one of the first truly mass-market drones, released in 2013. Its compact modular design, reliable flight controller, and quadcopter layout offered a light yet stable chassis. You could also hang a GoPro underneath, like so, or add an aftermarket live camera feed for surveillance purposes. Alternatively, you could use it as a delivery platform to drop bombs and grenades. A year later, DJI released its Phantom 2 Vision, which could live stream video to a smartphone or tablet. Suddenly, drone pilots could see what the drone saw in near real time from a safe distance. Groups like ISIS pioneered the military use of these consumer drones to direct their troops, drop explosives, and film it all for their propaganda videos. These images, published by the ANHA news agency, show the remnants of 2 ISIS-launched DJI Phantoms. They were shot down by the Kurdish YPG militia in northeast Syria in 2015. Here and here, you can clearly see the gimbal-stabilized camera dangling beneath the drone's chassis. And here, you can see some kind of mount, potentially used to attach an explosive charge. This image, published by Kurdish news outlet Rudor, shows an Iraqi Special Forces soldier holding another drone seized from ISIS. This plastic tube is a DIY release mechanism used to drop munitions on soldiers below. You can also see that a camera is equipped too. Now in 2025, drones have become the central focus of modern warfare. From Ukraine to Sudan and Israel to Myanmar, all kinds of different mechanisms are deployed in air, sea, and ground domains to great effect. But they're by no means an unstoppable force. As drones continue to evolve, the systems developed to counter them are catching up.
From cutting-edge technologies to simple DIY solutions, today's battlefields have become a lab of innovation for counter-drone equipment and tactics. Let's take a closer look at how some of the major drone threats of today are being stopped. Large, long-range UAVs, like the Iranian-linked Samad-3, have been used to strike infrastructure and military targets across extreme distances. Carrying small but powerful payloads of up to 18 kilograms, these drones can strike over 1,000 kilometers away when equipped for extended range. When launched in large numbers, they can overwhelm conventional air defenses through sheer volume. But even these military-grade one-way attack drones can be intercepted if the defending side has the right detection and response systems in place. Take the USS Carney, a US Navy destroyer equipped with the Aegis combat system, an integrated radar and weapons network named after the shield of Zeus. Aegis is designed to detect, track, and neutralize threats with pinpoint precision. Its Spy-1D phased array radar scans the airspace in 360 degrees, detecting and tracking dozens of targets at long range. It can find targets as small as a golf ball from more than 100 miles away, tracking over 100 threats at once. Once a threat is identified, Aegis communicates with the ship's Mk-41 vertical launch system hidden within the deck. From here, interceptors like the SM-2 missile can be launched, with a range of 90 nautical miles and a ceiling above 65,000 feet. Aegis also communicates with other weapon systems, like the Mark 45 5-inch deck gun. This can track and engage any oncoming projectiles that the SM-2s could not shoot down, blasting them at close range. On the 29th of November 2023, US Central Command reported that USS Carney intercepted and shot down a Samad-3 launched from Houthi-controlled areas. One of the most iconic drones of the early 2020s is this, the Turkish-made Bayraktar TB2. Unlike the Samad-3, the TB2 is a medium-range, long-endurance drone. It has a much shorter operational range of up to 300 kilometers. But it can loiter for up to a day and carries a much heavier payload, including various precision-guided munitions. Just a few years ago, the TB2 was extremely effective. It was used by Azerbaijan to decimate Armenian defenses in the 2020 Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. Then it proved to be one of Ukraine's best weapons in the first few weeks after the 2022 invasion. But this dominance did not last. Russian forces quickly began using electronic warfare systems like these, the Krasuka and the R-330 ZTEL, to degrade and disrupt the TB2's data link and GPS. With a relatively low cruising altitude of 18,000 feet and a very low speed of 130 kilometers per hour, the TB2 was particularly vulnerable to this jamming. Once compromised, Russian air defense systems could easily lock the TB2 and destroy them, as you can see from this image taken in April 2022. But still, until very recently, militaries generally had to employ a multi-layered and expensive air defense network to stop drones like the TB2. Now, in 2025, there are cutting-edge devices that can pick drones off without launching a single missile or firing a single shot. In May, the Israeli Air Force intercepted an incoming drone with a high-energy laser weapon. The system is called Iron Beam, developed by Israeli defense firm Rafael. Firing at the speed of light and costing just a few dollars per shot, Iron Beam can engage drones, rockets, and even mortar shells silently at a range of up to 10 kilometers. It also offers a radical contrast to conventional missile defense, which can run into the tens or even hundreds of thousands per launch. Analysts believe the target Iron Beam shot down in May was an Iranian Ababil-T drone, a medium-range kamikaze UAV used by Lebanon's Hezbollah and Yemen's Houthi rebels. This marked the first publicly confirmed use of a high-energy laser to destroy a drone in live combat. First-person view, or FPV drones, have reshaped frontline warfare. Initially pioneered by the likes of ISIS, these low-cost kamikaze UAVs are now used by state and non-state actors everywhere. Piloted via live video feeds from onboard cameras, they're flown directly into tanks, bunkers, and troops. But they have one major weakness: communication. FPV drones depend on two things: a live video feed streaming back to the pilot, and control commands set out to the drone. Both can be jammed. When hit by electronic warfare systems, the drone loses guidance, may enter fail-safe mode, and often crashes or misses its target. In one intercepted feed, a Ukrainian FPV drone's control link is jammed, causing the receiver to register RX loss. This means it's no longer receiving inputs from the flight controller. As a result, the drone drifts off course. To prevent jamming, some FPV teams have turned to fiber optic tethers. By attaching a thin fiber cable to the drone, operators can send and receive control and video signals directly. No radio waves means no jamming. But these cables become a physical weak point, a literal line the enemy can cut. Once it tears, the signal's gone and the drone becomes inoperable. This image shows a Ukrainian unit deploying razor wire across a field, designed to snare and cut the fiber optic cables. As a last resort, some soldiers on the front line have started carrying scissors. In this clip from June 2025, this Russian soldier puts his pair to good use, cutting the drone cable and most likely saving his own life in the process. The drone war also extends to the seas, where unmanned surface vessels, or USVs, pose a new kind of threat. These fast, explosive-laden boats are capable of damaging or sinking even large commercial ships. In recent years, Houthi forces in Yemen have increasingly turned to USVs to harass and strike vessels passing through the Red Sea. Here, one can be seen approaching the Liberian-flagged bulk carrier, MV Tutor, in June 2024. These are often small, skiff-type boats built to resemble fishing vessels. Here, you can see a dummy is propped up to look like a person. But inside they carry a lethal load, explosives packed into the hull, and a camera mast mounted at the bow, feeding live video back to a remote operator. Moments after this image was taken, the vessel was struck by the USV. It flooded and eventually sank. Just weeks later, in July, another Liberian-flagged ship, the container vessel MV Pumba, narrowly avoided the same fate. As a USV closed in on the port side, the ship's security team opened fire and hit the drone, causing it to explode. The Houthi USVs are lightly built. A few well-placed shots can rupture a fuel line, sever control wires, or even trigger a premature detonation. More advanced drones, like the Ukrainian-made Magura V5, are purpose-built with tougher hull and hardened internal systems. In February 2024, footage captured Russian sailors firing machine guns at a flotilla of incoming Magura drones. But the rounds did little to stop them. One by one, the drones broke through, slamming into the hull and destroying the ship. Unmanned ground vehicles, or UGVs, are increasingly common on the battlefield. They deliver supplies, lay mines, scout ahead, or even carry explosives. They're small, expendable, and relatively cheap, but they're also cumbersome and vulnerable to strikes by their airborne cousins. In December 2023, near Avdiivka, a Ukrainian first-person view drone hunted down and destroyed a Russian UGV in motion. The video shows the drone closing in at high speed, then striking with precision. In this case, drone defeated drone. 4 months later, you can see another unmanned platform met the same fate. This Russian UGV was designed to lay anti-tank mines. Here you can see 2 cylindrical-shaped TM62s visible on its deck. But before it reached the front line, it was intercepted and destroyed by an FPV drone. A light chassis and exposed payloads made it an easy target. What all these incidents show is a simple principle. No weapon stays dominant when opponents learn, innovate, and resourcefully exploit its weaknesses.
In the future, this drone-counter-drone cycle will be determined not only by technology, but by economics and politics too. Technologically, one of the most consequential frontiers is swarming. Swarming is not just lots of drones, it is hundreds, even thousands operating as a coordinated whole. With AI, distributing tasks across the network in real time. Swarms can saturate enemy air defenses, opening corridors for aircraft or missiles to efficiently strike high-value targets. This is the logical extension of cheap mass, which is why so many militaries are drawn to it. And that includes the UK. Earlier this year, the government published its Strategic Defence Review, which placed drones centre stage. One even featured on the front cover. This review proposes a high-low mix for the military, comprising a drone-enabled air force, a hybrid navy, and land drone swarms to help make the British Army 10 times more lethal. Yet there are caveats to this drone-heavy approach. The global supply chain for drones is heavily dependent on China, which, from hubs like Shenzhen, provides up to 80% of the world's global production of drones and patents. Decoupling from China may reduce that reliance, but it won't deprive Beijing of the knowledge it has already gained from years being the world's primary supplier. Intimate knowledge of how drones work and what their limitations might be. This informs Beijing's capability choices, which suggest a concern with drone-infested battlefields. So, for example, the PLA has developed the FK-3000, a counter-drone vehicle capable of firing 96 missiles with a 30mm cannon and an interception range of 12 kilometers, ideal for countering drone-infested battlefields. Directed energy is also an interest of the Chinese military. This is the Hurricane 3000, which is currently undergoing testing with the People's Liberation Army. It works by emitting high-intensity microwave radiation to fry the circuitry of drones or any other electronic device in its vicinity. It has been reported that this system can fire 10,000 times without failing. The Hurricane 3000 is a blunt tool, and drones with hardened casings may be more resistant to it. But with a claimed range of 3 kilometers, this is significantly more powerful than Western equivalents like this, the UK's Rapid Destroyer, featuring a 1 kilometer range. In addition to technology, the economics of the offense-defense balance will be important. Modern drone warfare often comes down to solving a $1,000 problem with a $1 million answer. Consider the recent incursions into Polish airspace. At least 19 drones from Russia, some little more than cheap and unarmed imitations, like this one on the left, a Gerber drone, versus strike drones on the right, like the Shahed 136s. But even if you assume that they were all the real thing, the Shahed 136s, they would still only be $35,000 a piece. The economic mismatch is stark, even when factoring in the value of the defended target, a school or a military installation perhaps. For example, this military base in Grodziec County, eastern Poland, where some drone wreckage fell. This is precisely what makes drones so attractive to states, insurgents, and militias alike. This imbalance is driving investment in cheaper defenses, directed energy weapons, lasers, and high-powered microwaves like the Hurricane 3000 you saw earlier, promise a cost per shot measured in tens rather than millions of dollars. Britain's Dragonfire laser, for instance, due to enter service in 2027, can strike a £1 coin from a kilometre away, all for just £10 a shot. This image here shows the Dragonfire laser test-fired in Scotland in January 2024. While lasers are no panacea, they are weather-dependent and have range limits, they do hint at an answer to the central question: who can deliver the cheapest defence against the cheapest attack? It's something the Chinese again are onto with their LY-1, unveiled at their 2025 Victory Day parade. But economics can't be separated from politics, and this is especially the case across Europe, where governments are scrambling to find collective answers. Eastern states bordering Russia are pushing for a drone wall stretching from Finland to Poland. This will likely involve a chain of sensors, jammers, and interceptors, though questions remain over operational issues like rules of engagement. The European Commission and NATO are also working on broader, integrated air and missile defence systems, long neglected but now recognised as essential to cover everything from ballistic missile threats to bombers. Recent incidents around airports in Denmark, where just a handful of drones caused major disruption, underline that this is not only a military problem, but one that touches civilian life too. While Baltic leaders like Latvian Prime Minister Vika Salina want a drone wall in place within 18 months, further west, Emmanuel Macron, the French president, has warned against rushing into an oversimplified solution. Similarly, Italy's Giorgia Meloni has argued that Europe cannot focus solely on its eastern flank while neglecting threats from the south. This exposes a hard truth. Choices will always have to be made about which assets to shield and where to accept risk. Even the wealthiest states cannot afford to defend everywhere against everything. Trump's desire for a golden dome to protect the United States from drones and missiles could cost an eye-watering $3.6 trillion and still fail to achieve his target of 100% effectiveness. Policymakers should be wary of technological hubris when they think of drones. If these systems once promised supremacy, they now only promise struggle. Technological contests await each military aiming for one-upmanship in the drone counter-drone cycle. But the bigger battles may lie elsewhere, in budgets and cabinets, as leaders wrestle with one question: are drones the future of war or just the latest distraction from